Hello, everyone. We are live again for another episode of Downright Annoyed with Movies. This is our 10th episode, so we're in double digits here. Thank you, everyone who's watched all of them so far. And if you're new, welcome. As always, I am surrounded by a wonderful cast of characters. So I will go ahead and hand it off to my co-host here to introduce himself and tell us where you can find him.
Great. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Michael, one of the hosts from the Downright Nerdy podcast and the co-host of Downright Annoyed with Movies with Jackson from Bored and Annoyed. We appreciate everybody here watching and listening wherever it is you guys are. We do a weekly show where everybody is able to choose a movie that they want, or we get to choose one of our movies. It's kind of fun. This week we are going to be reviewing Rollerball, 1975 flick starring James Caan. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride. Hope you guys enjoy the review. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. And Cookie, or actually Ken. Sorry, Ken.
Hey, my name's Ken. I'm from Pinky's Out Podcast. You can catch us on any of your podcasting platforms. We do a little bit on YouTube, and we're trying to get more motivated to do more. But with the quarantines making it kind of hard to get together, so.
And now, Cookie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, make sure you were on your toes or anything, but
you're all good. I'm Cookie from Just a Little Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Just a Little Podcast, all social media platforms, and as well, you can find me on YouTube as well on a couple of different channels like this one. So yeah, check me out.
Sweet. And Paul?
Hey guys, I'm Paul from the podcast Tales from the Flip Side. We're live on YouTube every Monday night about 9:30. Just kind of review what comic and collectibles we picked up since the last show, and just kind of shoot the breeze during this comic intermission time that we're all suffering through. So check us out if you can.
Sweet. And last but not least, Ryan, not Kyle. Ryan.
Hey guys, my name is Kyle. I represent Monster Energy Drinks. No, my name's Ryan. I'm from the Fake Nerd Podcast. We're a weekly pop culture podcast, much like the other cool dudes here. We have new episodes every Sundays. We're going live now on Sundays because we're all quarantined away from each other. So it's a little harder to record our regular episodes, but it's actually easier to do live StreamYard episodes, kind of like we're doing right now. We talk about movies, comics, video games. Everything's on hold right now, but we're still talking about every movie you want to see. We are reviewing New Mutants this week. Check us out. We're reviewing New Mutants.
Yeah, if you could patch me in for some of those, Ryan, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I gotta get you the movies first, though. I gotta get them to you first.
Hey, yeah, that'd be great. Do it up.
Spread the wealth to everybody.
Yeah,
there you go. I'm Jackson, and you're here, so you know where to find me. BoredandAnnoyed.com, YouTube on Bored and Annoyed, that sort of thing. But before we dive into Rollerball, those of you who are new or didn't watch last episode know that Rollerball was our sports pick. So this was not one that was necessarily picked the way we normally do. This was part of a genre battle, so to speak. So every month we are going to pick a new genre, and the genre is random. So I guess we'll start by picking the first genre this week or this month, and at the end of the month, these genres will be up against each other in a wheel. The winning genre will have a batch of movies that are decided on. And looks like I picked the wrong wheel, guys. Stand by. That was the wrong. Here's how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to share a screen instead of an application window.
Wheel of Misfortune.
Yeah, see, I can't do anything right. That's one thing you'll learn when I'm hosting the show, is that nothing happens smoothly. So here we go. So here are our genres, and I'm going to hurry up and spin this because the quality gets worse as it's up here longer. So while this spins, basically, as soon as this lands, feel free in the comments to suggest a movie that fits into this category. That will be added to the list of movies. First genre this month is sci-fi. So I'm imagining this crew. That's one of the easiest ones for us to fill up this list with. So, so start. Go ahead and suggest. Everybody suggest one movie. And Michael, if you want to throw that little scroller, you've already got
actually,
it at
here
the
I'm going
bottom.
to do
Look
this
at you,
one here.
perfect.
Here, I'm gonna get this here. I'm gonna 2 seconds. Go for it.
Yeah, so now everybody in the chat, go ahead and suggest a sci-fi movie. Those will be added to the list of possible films at the end. If science fiction wins the final genre spinoff, then we'll pick a science fiction movie. So it might not be clear. My explanation probably stinks, but go ahead and throw a sci-fi movie down. Now, on to the topic at hand, Rollerball. Michael, I think last week the whole clock deal worked well. So let's go ahead and go around giving our initial thoughts on Rollerball, and we'll start with you, Michael. Throw the clock on yourself. What did you think of Rollerball?
Cool. 30 seconds or less. I was pleasantly surprised about Rollerball. It had a lot of holes, but it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. Ish. I have more to say. I don't need the whole 30 seconds.
There you go. All right, we'll start that timer over, and we'll go to Ken.
I share some of Mike's sentiment. Pleasantly surprised. I remember this movie being better than it was. I remember it being more action packed, but I liked it. It wasn't bad. It was just it really drug in the middle. I think they could have cut half an hour off of this, and it would have been a great movie. I don't have anything else to say. I mean, it's one of those movies you can just watch and you're not sad you watched it, but you're not thrilled either. So
cool.
All right, Cookie.
It was an enjoyable film. It definitely had quite a bit of plot holes that needed to be filled. A lot of wasted space, wasted time that could have been filled with something to kind of bring everything together. I thought it had a solid meaning behind it, and it just wasn't executed as well as it could be. But then you're looking 70s, which it's a different era, different time. So if you put your mindset into that aspect, it's a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it.
All right, and thank you, Cookie. Paul.
Oh, it was a tough watch. I thought it was too long. I don't think it did a good enough job of establishing the universe that it was in, but detail wise, why they wanted to get rid of the main character, I don't think was explained well enough. His seeking of the truth kind of fell on its face, in my opinion. But I mean, it was kind of had some blood sport / gladiator theme to it as far as the sport itself.
Awesome. And Ryan.
Yeah, I surprisingly like this movie a lot. Everything you guys said is true. I do think it's a little too long. I think there are some plot holes. I do think this movie could be a lot shorter, but I do think the themes that it does present. And I'm not a big sports guy, so I thought the sport that was in this movie was really interesting. And the further it went along, and the more heinous it got, I actually enjoyed. And it was like there's so much more behind the scenes with like government and conspiracies and all that stuff that I enjoyed.
Look at you just coming in under the clock there, Ryan.
I tried.
You just did it. So my 30 seconds, everybody says Gladiator ripped off Ben-Hur. I actually think Gladiator ripped off Rollerball. It was basically that plot line. I think that's one of the problems I have with the movie is it has this, narrative about a guy who's kind of becoming bigger than the thing the powerful people are that have him put in that situation. I don't think they really did enough to explain that or have that pay off in the end, but I love the sports scenes and the movie's okay, I guess.
Cool.
So there you go. We all did it in 30 seconds. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start. I'm going to, hog the limelight here. The middle hour of this movie between the two Rollerball scenes, the two main beginning and the ending, is so goddamn boring and meandering. I was so bored out of my mind in so many places in this. I couldn't help but tune out quite a few times what was happening, and I still don't think I missed much. I was just kind of lost in my own headspace. There's little things about it that I liked. Like essentially the plot is that there's this game in the future called Rollerball, and seemed to me that basically corporations now run the world, and they all kind of have their own teams in this rollerball sport. And I think it's kind of how they keep the populace entertained and in line, so to speak. But yeah, they start with a rollerball game. And then it's one of the guys played by James Caan, the main character. He is like the MVP every year. He's the best at the game. And I think the fear is that he's becoming bigger than the sport. So they try to force him into retirement. And that's basically the plot. Why is he being forced into retirement? What's he going to do about it? I'm
going to bounce off you real quick.
Okay.
Everything you said is right, and I do agree that all the ideas presented here, almost all of them, I think are cool, but they're almost all underutilized or under-executed in some way. The gladiator reference or the gladiator metaphor is very apt. It is about no one person should be bigger than a corporation, and it's about how if a single individual can make a difference, and how in this future that's not how the world works. And he's this dude who is like giving people inspiration. Again, I don't think it explores that as much as I want it to. But the idea is there. And I do think the stuff between him and Bartholomew, I think that's the executive's name, is good enough for me. And I think James Caan is good enough where most of that stuff lands for me. The middle act definitely drags. There's definitely a lot of meandering. I definitely think we could use a couple more sports events. There's only, I think, 2 or like 2.5. But the individualism of like no one is bigger than the game. I think that's pretty well executed for the most part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was just going to say that
I talk too much.
No, I was going to say that I agree everything about what you and Ryan were saying as well. But the biggest part for me that I actually really enjoyed a lot, because I am a sports guy, I enjoyed the cinematography of when they were actually on the rink and the camera angles were right at the feet or at the bottom of the tires of the motorcycles. I thought that was really, really cool. Yeah, the middle part, so this is how I watch it. I went outside to smoke a cigar, and I was kind of tuning in and out the entire time. I know I didn't miss much at all, but I was entertained for most part. I mean, I don't know if it was because I'm a huge James Caan fan. I don't know if I'm biased because of that. But yeah, when you guys were talking in the group text, I think Ken, you were saying that you wanted one of those laser guns. Man, that was really I really wanted that. And just one last thing before I just want to piggyback off what Ryan said. The overall theme about government and one person being above, not being able to be above this. It reminded me a lot of Hunger Games. I don't know if that kind of reminded like a futuristic thing where one person kind of going. They didn't want James Caan to be like their version of a Katniss Everdeen or something.
Same idea, yeah.
Also,
real quick, this was the first movie that I just saw it. This is the first movie that Hollywood gave recognition to its stunt actors in the credits, because the stunts were so vital. Yeah, I think all the action in this movie is insane. I can't believe that James Caan actually did a lot of these stunts. And the cast and stuntmen had so much fun with this rollerball game. They actually played it in between takes, and it's a real game with real rules. And they tried to buy the rights from the author to make it a real sport because it's so believable.
That's cool.
I do think that the actual game of rollerball in the movie is awesome. Like, it's just those scenes, like at the end, the main big rollerball, scene between New York and where are they from?
Houston.
Yeah, I was totally engaged in that, regardless of how bored I was for large portions of the movie. But yeah, Ken, what did you think of the rollerball sport and just in general? What are your kind of long form thoughts on the movie?
Well, the sport itself, I thought looked fun. I mean, I'd like to go out and try it. I'd probably kill myself. I'd end up like moon pie on a ventilator. But I really did. I think the sport could be viable. I mean, you'd have to do a lot of things to make sure people didn't die as much, but no, I liked it. the whole dystopia, maybe it's because since then that was kind of a new genre, the dystopia future movies. Because wasn't that right about the time that Omega Man came out and Logan's Run and all that?
Yes.
All within a few years of
the
each other.
70s was very much all about that kind of stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and since I feel like we've hit that cycle again, both in movies and books and TV shows. So maybe I kind of got like, oh god, great, you know, corporate America is evil. Ooh, you know, I'm over that in movies these days.
This was a trendsetter though for that. This was
right. No, I
before,
understand that, but am I the only other person I'm watching this and I'm thinking, this kind of reminds me of Demolition Man. Are they going to make a reference to the 3 shells?
I love Demolition Man.
It's right
you
before
don't know
Star
the 3
Wars.
shells?
It's right before Star Wars, so it's still kind of sci-fi trying to find its footing, right? I mean, you had like 2001: A Space Odyssey was a big hit, but other than that, it's not like the gigantic sci-fi movies had even existed yet. And this is kind of another smaller one that is fun, but yeah, Cookie, Cookie, if you want to real quick, can you explain the rules of Rollerball? What are the rules of the sport?
That is a tough one. I would say, get the ball inside of the hole is the objective of the game, and try not to get killed as you're doing it. It seems like the inner ring is the out of bounds. So if the ball ends up landing out there, or you end up landing outside of that inner ring, then you're essentially the ball's now forfeit. You have to get a new ball shot in, and the objective is just to get that ball in there. I enjoyed it for the sport of it and the action of what's happening, but the sport as a whole, I didn't see any excitement to it besides people kind of trying to kill each other for the most part.
Yes. I think killing each other is vital to the sport of rollerball. If you don't have that, I don't know how exciting it is. But yeah, actually, I'm about to sneeze. So, Michael, you're going to have to pitch the next person.
Oh, no worries. Paul, what did you think? That's easy.
Pinball on roller skates.
Yeah.
I mean, the sport itself is cool. That would have been neat if they got the rights to make it a real sport. I think if the movie was shorter, it would have been better. But the whole supercomputer thing that the scientist was yelling at, like it was some child, even though it was supposed to be, the smartest thing in the world, is that what's controlling these the executives? And I wish they could have explained it a little better. I think my favorite part of the movie is when he's talking to his trainer about the history, and he mentions like the NFL and what, I think he was talking about Chicago, like what the world used to be like. I think that was neat, just to get a little glimpse of that, because in this world they live in, nobody knows. There's no history because there's no books. It's all in this supercomputer that's, if you want a copy of whatever book, it's edited and things like that. But I don't know. I marginally enjoyed it. The laser gun was cool.
Yeah, man. Again, all that stuff like about the supercomputer, like all the books and all of history has been edited the way that the corporations want. That is such a fascinating idea that they don't do anything with. The supercomputer.
It's 1984, kind of.
Yeah, the supercomputer scene itself, like I enjoyed this movie, but that's the one scene where I'm like, what's going on? Why did he go all the way to? Why did he go across the world to go talk to a computer for 5 minutes and doesn't get information? That scene could have been cut. The movie would have been fine.
Yeah,
and the scene where he talked to his ex-wife, and like
that whole thing.
I see that one I'm okay with because it's a corporation trying to get to him through his wife, and does she really love him? And like, I actually found that scene kind of sad when he has to erase her, like the one thing that he has a memory of her. I was okay with that part.
I like that too. I actually like the idea that they like kind of assign girlfriends to him.
They could take people away. That
part I didn't mind. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good life he lives. I mean,
your name's Daphne?
They just assign you girlfriends, right?
Yeah, where are this?
I want to talk about my favorite scene real quick. It is actually the laser gun scene, but it's because as like a film student who thinks about what that scene means, I want to see what you guys, before I say what you guys think that scene means. When he's talking to the executive and then the people are just shooting the trees, what do you think that scene's about?
Obscene power.
Okay.
I mean, I'll let somebody else take that.
Because I think this is something that could be different for everyone.
I'd say reckless power, that they're above morality, because violence and explosions they're just entertainment to them. They have no consequence. They're above consequence. There's no conscience. there's no social conscience anymore because it's all driven by economic factors.
And you can kind of see in James Caan's face, like as he's like looks out the window as he's seeing that he sees the explosion, he just kind of looks like almost in disgust as to what he's like a part of, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, on that note too, Ken, being a huge football fan that I am, it is disturbing. Yeah, the foosball, right. It is disturbing because I know, you know, these guys are, I mean, they're paid a ton of money, right? So I don't feel horrible for them, but at the same time, it's like, I do get enjoyment when there's that hit that's just like, you know, just loud as can be. And you're like, oh man, I jump out of my seat, you know? So, I think that's right. It is kind of making commentary on what we're entertained by, and is that morally sound? And if that is the message, then they're making it very early, because in the 70s, obviously, we're still 30 plus years away from CTE being a thing that's discussed. You know, so yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But Ryan, what were you getting at? As the whole
for the most part,
angle?
Ken's actually right for the most part, but I also viewed it as the trees represent nature, and that also represents James Caan and how he's a force of nature, and they're trying to take out him, but nature grows no matter what. Like, you can't stop nature from growing. So I thought that was also like they're trying to take out actually like they're trying to take out the earth, and you can't do that. And James Caan is like, he's the Rock, and they can't take out the Rock. You know what I mean? Not the Rock.
Never take out
Johnson.
the Rock.
Yeah, no, Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne is internal.
I'm ready for a Rollerball remake starring The Rock. Let's try it again.
Wow.
The Rock.
You sold me right there.
So real quick, the Rollerball remake takes place in the present day. It's not dystopian, and it's almost all action, not political. And so that might be a movie we should watch way later on to compare. But it's also like horrible, like just horrible.
Hey, you can win the spin, Ryan. You might win today. Maybe that's the movie.
Oh my God, double Rollerball? That'd be awful.
Or just Rollerball a second time. Why not?
Yeah. Right. See what we didn't see.
I'm picking Children of Dune from the Sci-Fi Network.
Hey, yeah, no mini series allowed, Ken. No mini series allowed.
You can't change the rules on me now.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't have much else to say. I do think, to your point, Michael, I thought the cinematography, especially during the Rollerball action scenes, was great. Everything was sold very well. You know what I mean? Like, it really seems brutal. It feels brutal. I will say that I do find it to be epic at the end when there's no time limit, no rules. I love when it's just him that's left and the one other guy on the bike, and the other guy just doesn't even go near him. You know, he won, and it is a really well put together scene. Yes.
Yeah, he didn't just beat the game, he beat the corporation.
It feels like a revolution. Like, it's the start of a revolution.
Part of the game.
Do you guys want to figure out?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Hold on. One at a time.
Ken.
Cookie.
Okay.
Cookie, I'm calling on you. I'm calling on you.
Did you guys want to know why they wanted to rebel? What's this hope that they're bringing to the people? Because it seems like, corporations running everything, but we don't get that sense of why it's such a bad reason. We know now, of course, real life corporations, but as far as in the film, as far as in their dystopian world, why is the corporation?
So you're asking, like, if this is a revolution, to what end?
Yeah,
correct. And Paul, you raised your hand. You want to take that one?
Well, unless I misheard the question, were you asking why the corporations were scared of him?
No, I know why they're scared of him. I want to know what's the purpose behind having him get retired, because he is going to be that beacon of hope, but what's the hope from?
I guess I understood then. They want to get rid of him because he's getting bigger than the sport, and their fear is that the spectators will feed off that, where they will have their own personal identity, and then things will start to fall apart again. They'll lose their control as the corporation. So they're like, you had a good run. And then in 10 years or something, didn't they say?
Yeah, 10 years.
They wanted him to retire before.
The game isn't meant to have the game is meant to kill people. It is not meant for you to prolong and to become a superstar. It was never meant for that.
Right. Mm-hmm. And Ken, you were interrupted by me and Cookie, so we'll let you talk now. Well, unfortunately for all of us.
Right. Kind of like what Ryan is saying, though. the game is designed so that no one wins. Okay, so all of a sudden you've got a guy that's living and thriving in this game for over a decade, right? So what's happening, and Bartholomew references it when they have their big fight, when he says, "Up yours, I'm going to Tokyo. You can't stop me." He said, they make references. The game was not designed to be won, and he has won the game. And it's not just the rollerball game, but it's the corporation game too. No one is supposed to be able to break out of that mold that they put society into. So he represents freedom. He represents growth, personal growth, because everybody's being sold, who their spouse is, what they read. They don't even read books. They're just given summaries by an AI, right? So
it's a controlled world,
right? And he represents chaos in the system. They built this game, which is a pressure release valve for social aggression, right? So all of your violent tendencies are being met by watching this game. Well, if he breaks the game, what happens? That valve breaks, and then internal pressure builds inside the society, and boom.
I think that's
beautifully said.
I think it's almost like Cookie. You just talking about a Cookie, asking that question made me think of the Matrix, right? It's like nobody knows they're in the Matrix, right? And everybody's kind of just living in blissful ignorance to an extent. And maybe that's the case in this world. They don't know what they're missing out on by not having individuality. There might not be like a current crisis that's happening. If there is, we certainly aren't shown it, which this movie doesn't really show how society is happening. Maybe that's a fault of the movie. I don't know what world they're really living in outside of these corporations and this rollerball game. I never see the spectators in their natural habitat, so to speak, which I guess could be a problem. But I think that's the idea, is that this will wake up the people to realize that, like, oh, I'm being controlled, Yeah,
the only they really focus on the upper class. They're being controlled by the little pills that they all hand out, and they're all basically just partying all the time. The only reference I get to the outside world is I think, again, that scene where he's talking to his trainer, and his trainer's mentioning Chicago, how Chicago area or the state used to be like the food production capita or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think what he mentions a city, and then that's when his current assigned girlfriend walks off and says, Indianapolis. Oh, I'm going to Indianapolis. And he's like, whatever happened to that place?
So nations and countries don't exist anymore. They're all corporations. So Jonathan E. is part of the Energy Corporation, and there is the Food Corporation, and like Chicago is who makes the food, Houston is who makes the energy, Tokyo who they make whatever they make. So like they don't dive into it too much, but I don't think you need every kernel to understand it. You probably could use a little bit more, but like I wasn't looking for that too much. I got enough.
I totally missed that because I was probably during the time that I zoned out a little bit.
That's fair, yeah.
I zoned out a lot during that middle section of the movie, and I mean, I didn't feel like I missed much, but apparently, I guess I did. I mean, I like that, and even I think somebody mentioned they referenced the NFL in Chicago. I was totally blanking on that. I didn't.
Well, to be fair to you, Michael. To be fair to you, Michael, there is a reason why, even when you're doing exposition, you need to have your characters like engaging in some exciting way, because that's what happens. I'm sorry. I spaced out a lot too. There's only so much of shot, reverse shot in boring rooms with boring, dry dialogue that one can take before they're bored out of their mind and they start thinking of naked women or something. You just can't. It's just broken in that way.
And
not that the movie has like nothing to say or that the plot is bad, but sometimes it's just too boring. Being a 1975 moderately low budget sci-fi movie, it is, the people talking parts are boring. I cannot deny that at all. For me, like I didn't find myself zoning out, but I definitely had to keep paying attention. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start looking at my phone, because like I want to know everything about this world. And it doesn't flesh it out as much as I'd want, but for me, like one of the final lines in the movie is like one of the guys is talking to an executive, and he's like, "This isn't even a game anymore," and the executive's like, "It was never a game," and I'm like, "That's good. That's good."
Towards the end, yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. I just want to point out what Solo Wookie is saying. By the way, thank you, Solo Wookie, for always being a big supporter of the show. It's very choppy film, like the old style Bond movies. A cutscene, no dialogue, just a character walking through a lobby, then a scene in an office, then a chop into an outdoor scene walking to next. I think the differences between this and the Bond movies is that Bond had very interesting characters throughout. Like everybody was interesting in the Bond movies, whereas this one. Like we didn't care about anybody except for James Caan and I guess Bartholomew.
I care about Moon Pie's mustache.
Yeah, I was gonna say his mustache.
I guess if you want, just make the mustache a character, then yeah.
Just a mustache.
Moon Pie. Now Moon Pie is the one who gets thrown on the ventilator, right? The guy in a coma.
Yeah,
is that Moon Pie?
Yep.
Yeah, I actually think he might have been my favorite character outside of James Caan. Like he's got some spunk to him.
Out of curiosity, for anybody who watched this for the first time for this show, did anybody else think that was going to be a bad guy? Like he was like almost like going to be. He was almost tasked by the corporation to replace James Caan, maybe.
I think
to control him.
I thought he was. I didn't think he was a bad guy, but I thought he was going to be a screw up who like screwed something up for the team and got too foolhardy. You know what I mean? That's kind of that's the position I thought he was in, and that's not how it played out to the movie's credit at all. So.
Yeah. When he interrupted the training to hear the Japanese tactics, I thought that was going to be his downfall. Of you had your chance to like actually have real training and strategy, and then you turned it into a macho man.
I like that scene too.
I did. That might have been one of my favorite scenes. I like the idea that they all have their different styles. You know what I mean? Like that's some good world building there. So,
why don't we do that? Yeah. Why don't we do that? Starting with you, Jackson. Let's build upon that. Let's go across the horn. Favorite scenes.
Well, I guess if you're starting with me, I mean the final rollerball game I thought was excellent. I was totally, for a movie that bored me to death most of the way through, I really, really, really was impressed with that final scene, the stunt work. And Ryan, that's great trivia that this was the first stunt team that was really featured like this, because they deserve it, in my opinion. It's so crucial to the movie. So yeah, that was my favorite scene, the ending.
Nice.
All right, my favorite scene was actually the one in the hospital with Moon Pie, and the guy was trying to tell him that, hey, you need to sign this so we can turn off life support, and James Caan's just like, well, a plant doesn't talk and it still grows towards the sunlight.
Yes.
And just walks away. And there's protocol. He's like, the hell with your protocol, and just walks away. That I like that. To me, that was an awesome scene. Not a lot of action, but it's just very poignant, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
The action scene, I guess, with Japan, when they versed in Japan, I thought that was epic. All the cinematography for that was absolutely stunning. And it really captivated the audience for that glimpse of moment just because it's all action. So that was my big thing.
Nice.
Yeah, Ken, I like that when he was trying to sell him with the smile. Like, oh, it's protocol and it's rules. But my favorite scene was when that guy got smashed in the face with the ball that comes right out of the
man.
The gun or whatever you want to call
it.
Paul,
you're sick.
I caught it. Damn.
Brutal. I think my if I have to choose one, because I think there are a lot of really good scenes in an overall okay movie. The final rollerball battle is really brutal and intense, and the thing I like about it is even the audience after a while becomes numb to how brutal it is, and it's just quiet. And it's just people killing each other, and it becomes an actual gladiator arena. And just like when it is the final two opponents, when it's James Caan and the last guy, and they're just like, "Oh man, this sucks." I thought that was really like pretty powerful. And Ken, the scene you mentioned where he's like, when it is Moon Pie in a coma, and he's like, and what I like about James Caan, it's not like him yelling at the doctor. He's very subtly like, well, plants, they're not alive and they face the sun. Like it's him like processing like his friend being dead. I thought that was also very powerful.
Well, you totally stole my scene there, Ryan. But I'll talk a little bit more about it. The scene when they were all the entire audience was quiet. They're all kind of like taking in what they just saw, and then you see Bartholomew. He tries to get up and leave, and he's not able to. But James, it was a very like, are you not entertained from what's his face?
Gladiator.
Right? We talked about that earlier, but it was a very I think that was probably the most powerful and I think one of the best scenes in the movie. I'm glad it ended the way it did because I mean, it's how often have we seen movies where it goes downhill real quick through the middle of the movie and then comes back at the end. It's tough to come back from a lot of nonsense, I guess, in the movie that's needed. So yeah, that was my favorite part of the movie.
I think the corporations did this to themselves because they kept trying to amp the game up to get him to quit or to get him to be killed by changing these rules. I think if they would have just left the rules as they were, wouldn't he have just kind of aged out and faded away? I think they created the revolution themselves by making him such a star by changing these rules. And he not only has he overcome 10 years of it, but now he's overcoming these last second rules that just come out of nowhere. And then even the coach, but even the coach gives up on him in the end, where he's like, he's on the corporation's payroll as well. So I think they did it to themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like it. Just like we've done this to ourselves by creating the show.
Yeah.
Right? We've created a monster.
Hey guys, I'm surprised that we all liked it as much as you guys did. Like, honestly, it's like, I'm happy.
Yeah. Let's on that note.
Sorry.
On that note, Michael, we'll start with you then. No, don't worry about it. Hey, I mean, we're the kings of interrupting each other, aren't we? But anyway, I actually interrupted an entire. I interrupted an entire episode of your show today. So
ended the whole live broadcast. That was awesome.
Michael, what's your grade on this?
On this or on you? I'm going to give you a C for Carol Baskin. But
that
bitch. No. So I'm going to give this movie. I'm going to give this movie a solid C with a possible C+ upside if you just want to fast forward through the middle 30 minutes.
Okay, Ken.
Well, I woke up with the sunshine in my eyes this morning.
Here we go.
No, I'll give it a B+. Honestly, like you said, we all agree the middle was just awful in this movie. But the more we've talked about it, actually, I've come to I think I enjoyed the movie more than I did when I actually watched it earlier today. Talking about all of it, and I thought a lot of it was kind of a swing and a miss. I think that the content was there, maybe just not executed as good as it could have been. So I'll give it a B+.
Cookie?
It's no Tuesday with Maury, but I mean it's pretty decent. I'd probably give it like a solid C+, maybe push into a B, depending on how much you have to drink.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm with Michael. So a C. They had the right ingredients there. I think they just didn't mix them up properly. But I mean, it could have been a fault of the time and the movies of that era and things like that. So I think talking about it with a group of buddies makes it more enjoyable. But I'll still throw a C at it.
All right, Ryan.
We're the glasses crew down here. I just want you guys to realize we're the cool kids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I would give it just a B. Like I for being a 1975 sci-fi. Oh, there you go, Ken. Join us. For being like a 1975 sci-fi movie that tries to say something while having good action. I think it works most of the time. It is based off a couple of books that actually the guy who wrote the books wrote the screenplay for this. So it's kind of his own fault if his ideas didn't get translated, which is funny. But yeah, I would give it a B. Like, I think this is a really good movie to be remade today. Like if they wanted to make a really good version of this, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, Ryan. I would say that the worst Stephen King adaptations, for instance, are the ones he wrote himself. Honestly.
What's the car one? Maximum Overdrive?
Yes,
no,
right.
That was from Buick 8. From Buick 8.
I think that this movie kind of stinks overall. I think you guys are all huffing gas or whatever. You're doing drugs,
experimental.
You're drinking. You're eating those Altoids, right? I would say that this movie is a D+. If those rollerball scenes weren't so goddamn awesome, this would be an F. It's just so boring. It's just so poorly executed. the plot, obviously, like that idea can be done well. We've seen it done before. One man takes on a overarching nemesis and wins. Like, there's no reason why this couldn't have been entertaining, but it's just boring.
That's
so,
for sure.
If I got
I'll
real quick, the two movies that he directed before this were Fiddler on the Roof and Jesus Christ Superstar. So this is a musical man who made Rollerball. So I think he translated like pretty well into an action movie for the most part. It's just his dialogue is kind of boring.
No,
all right. Well, you know what
time? Musical.
You know what time it is now.
Oh, it's wheel time.
You know what time it is now, guys. It's wheel time. So I'm going to go ahead and share the wheel here. So Paul was the last winner. So Paul is defending champion here. I'm going to shuffle this a couple times, I guess.
Oh my
and
goodness.
then we will go ahead and let's spin it here. And it is spinning. I don't know how well you guys can see it.
Not on our end.
Your word
but it looks like it's
rigged.
going to be
Ryan. No way.
Who wins?
Oh,
no way.
Oh my Lord.
Right. Hair.
Here we go.
All right, guys. All right. So listen, I'm gonna do a caveat here.
So Ryan, what is your pick?
So I'm gonna actually be a little nice here. I am actually interested in doing the other Rollerball, or we can do 1990s Cube.
Nobody say anything. He has to make.
Oh, you're right.
He has to make this decision
You're
himself.
right.
Don't give him any. Don't give him anything. It's all him.
I really want to watch a horrible movie though. Oh. I'm gonna pick Cube. There's a 1990s sci-fi movie called Cube that I think is really, really, really good, and I don't know who's seen it here.
I have seen that movie.
So I'm gonna pick Cube.
Oh hell yeah! I'm ready.
Okay,
yes.
I'm ready for Cube.
Yep, I'll watch that.
As long as we don't watch Cube 2 and Cube 0 and Cube 3 and all the other cubes, please.
Never seen them.
Yeah,
I've never even heard of it. So
yeah.
Sure.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. I like when we pick movies that no one's seen before.
Yeah, the past 3 or 4 movies I have never seen or heard of. So
good. That's what this is for.
Okay, well, hey, on that note, before we take off, let's go ahead and go around the horn again. If everybody wants to kind of say their goodbyes, we'll start with Michael.
Oh, cool. Hey, yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys watching and participating. This has been a really fun ride. This whole thing is really cool, especially now that we're all kind of quarantined in here. Everybody's we can all come together and watch these movies, have awesome talks about it. This has just been a fun ride. Just make sure you guys click that like button, hit that notification bell so you know when the next one is. So I guess Cube will be the next one on the Downright Nerdy podcast channel. So make sure you follow us. It'll be a good time.
Sweet.
Hey.
And Ken?
Hey, it's Ken from Pinkies Out Podcast. You can find us on all the podcasting platforms. We're trying to get some YouTube stuff going. I'm hoping to talk Kurt and Andy maybe into going live for just a few minutes after this, if we can. But check us out. We're a bunch of guys. We like to drink beer and discuss beer, and then we kind of devolve from there. So check it out.
Sweet. And Cookie.
Hey, guys, I'm Cookie from Just Little Podcast. You can find the podcast on all social media platforms at Just Little Podcast, on Twitter at Just Podcasting. Hopefully putting out more content in the near future. I actually have something lined up coming up next week, so hopefully it's going to happen soon. Thank you guys for letting me come on the show each and every week. I enjoy it. It's a blast.
Sweet. Thanks, Cookie. Paul.
Hey, Paul from Monday nights, 9:30. Tales from the Flip Side is live on YouTube. And if I have not bored you enough, just check out our YouTube channel. We actually have a bunch of more different videos up, like 3-Card Monty with some other guys from CBSI, some foreign comic book talk on Global Comic Safari, and all sorts of stuff. So if you don't want to check us out on Monday, at least check out our YouTube channel and see if something catches your eye. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Thanks, Paul. And Ryan, not to be confused with Kyle from last week.
Sorry, Kyle from Monster Energy Drink had to go. I'm Ryan from the Fake Nerd Podcast. We do our shows every Sunday where we talk about movies, comics, television shows, everything. Again, we're in the quarantine, so it's going to be live because we're all stationed away from each other. It'll probably be around 5 or 6 o'clock. If you want to see the review of New Mutants, Fox Disney's new X-Men movie that's definitely in theaters today, watch us do that tomorrow. I am personally at DJ Tony Snark everywhere because I don't have a job anymore because of the virus. I'm streaming a whole lot of video games, Animal Crossing. We're going to start playing Doom soon, Overwatch. Just say hello. Just type any of these names in and I'm there. Goodbye.
I am your humble co-host, Jackson, and you can find our stuff at boredandannoyed.com. We have been live streaming every week on YouTube, our episodes during quarantine, and this week was interesting, to say the least. So I would definitely
check out their last one.
I watched some of it. It's something.
Yeah. So, I definitely recommend not watching that one. But no, we did a lengthy review of Kingdom. And by the way, if anybody has not watched Kingdom on Netflix, fucking awesome. So
you sold me on it.
2 episodes in,
great.
I'm hooked.
It just gets better as it goes too, and it looks like we lost Cookie, so that's a good time to go ahead and end the show. Everyone, thanks again for tuning in, and check us out next week where we watch the '90s cult classic-ish movie Cube.
Awesome. Hashtag The Rock for Rollerball. Let's go.